I've clicked onto the global tropical overview for February the 24th, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, the atmospheric pressure are mine alone, and when making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look to the local weather office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. We've got our same two systems active across the tropics today. We've got what was a Leonard. You could probably barely call it a tropical cyclone by now, but it's quickly losing that status as it's now well removed from the island of Mauritius. It passed pretty close to the island and brought some pretty heavy rainfall and gusty winds to the island, and I hope the impacts were not too bad across the island. I hope everyone is safe, but the system is now well removed, and you can sort of get the sense of where the system is going to head if you look right at the center, just about here. And it's starting to move back towards the west. As we talked about a couple days ago, it's now come down here, and there's a big blocking ridge developing way south of the storm. And that is now going to push the system back towards the northwest. Now, the good news is here, one, that the sea surface temperatures are just not too good down the south, but also it's being sheared very heavily. You can see all the thunderstorms are just sort of strung out like this across this part of your map. This is going to persist over the next several days, and this will keep Eleanor very weak, and it will likely cause it to just remain a naked swirl over the next few days, or just fully dissipate away as it tracks further west. Now, as it does track further west, there will be some possibility that we have some maybe scattered showers across maybe La Reunion, but the chances of that are fairly low, and just given the shear and the drier air around it, I wouldn't anticipate too much. And any tropical redevelopment is not anticipated with this storm. You can see that here in the Meteo France forecast, keeping it a very weak storm and actually showing dissipation by the end of the forecast as it gets towards the coastline of Madagascar. Now, it may have some rainfall issues along the coastline of and inland areas as well as it comes into Madagascar. Some models have shown maybe some increased rainfall as it does come through, but in terms of tropical cyclone development, nothing really of that sort here. And once it goes inland, the models are all showing it really dissipating away over land, which makes sense given the high topography, and we're not expecting it to come offshore at this time, potentially have a chance to redevelop. So that will likely be the end of a Leonard. And now we're going to move to the Australian region, as we have ex-tropical cyclone Lincoln still here. It has not met tropical cyclone standards by the Bureau of Meteorology. Of course, there are some arguments that it's reached tropical cyclone status by, other definitions, but for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to go with the Bureau of Meteorology here. And overall, it doesn't matter if it's, low, tropical low, or ex-tropical cyclone or tropical cyclone here. The impacts are not going to change just because a status of a storm changes here. And the main impact here is really going to be heavy rainfall. I could show you some radar out of Western Australia here. You could see it there, and all this heavy rainfall coming ashore into northwestern Australia. And this is going to happen over the next couple of days throughout the weekend time frame. And this may cause some local flooding issues across the region, but overall, the system has struggled a lot. It has not really taken any advantage of the low wind shear environment. Now, it has had a pretty hostile environment, all things considered, just given all the dry air around it. You can see that if you just block out Lincoln here, there's just not much clouds at all across the region, not even many thunderstorms around. And this is illustrated even better in the water vapor lip. You can see there's just not a lot of deep moisture here. You can see lots of blacks and greens indicating a lot of mid-level dry air, and the blacks is just dry air across the entire column of the atmosphere. And that's just something that Lincoln has been struggling with quite a lot. You can see here on the sounding from the GFS that there is a little bit of shear, so in case the system tries to go for maybe a little bit more intensification before landfall, it will have some struggles. There's a little bit of a wind shift with height. You can see we have northerly winds here in the mid-levels of the troposphere and more northwesterly in the upper levels, and this is creating a little bit of shear. You can see max shear values here around 17 knots, and this will likely keep some of the dry air around and keep putting pressure on the low. Now, like I said, the system, even not being a tropical cyclone, is still going to bring some impacts. Like I showed you on radar, we have a heavy rainfall coming through, and this is a scatterometer pass that we got several hours ago. You can see that there was still a well-defined center here. And I'm showing you this because I talked about this when it was coming offshore of Western Australia. When these systems have these well-defined structures here, these low-level centers, they can be efficient at getting moisture off the ocean, and they can keep up the convection like we've seen over the past few days with Lincoln, and these can cause heavy rain issues. Even though we have all the dry air around, it still has some moisture to deal with, at least for the time being, with the waters. Now, the waters do get cooler as you go down further south, and that will likely cause the system to lose some of its convection alongside some of the land interaction it may have. But localized heavy rainfall and localized flooding is a certain possibility here, and even putting more to my point of the status doesn't really change impacts, we still have a cyclone warning in place along the northwestern coast of Western Australia here. You can see that there in orange on this map. But you can see that this track is not just stopping where that cyclone warning is. Even areas well further inland here, not in a cyclone watch or warning, still has a low tracking that way, and you could absolutely still have some gusty winds and heavy rainfall come across the region. But we're fortunate, at least the system did not take advantage of the environment, and we're not dealing with any strong storm here, and we'll certainly take that any day in peak of cyclone season. Now, looking long range, the tropics are likely to get a little bit quiet as we end out the month. You can see this is the upper air look across the world. This is showing areas of rising air and sinking air. Rising air being favorable for thunderstorm development, and sinking air across, it's not favorable for thunderstorm development. You can see that there's a lot of dry air and sinking air across the Pacific, and this isn't the current map. This is into early March. What's happening right now is we have just a lot of this extending from the Pacific into the Australian region. It's why the Australian region is so dry right now. You can see on satellite. Now, as we get towards early March, you can see this rising air cell here come up in the southwestern Indian Ocean, and this might provide an opportunity for more tropical developments. Some models are trying to hint at that possibility, but at the same time, this is early March. This is a week or two out, and even in mid-March, you can see maybe some signs of increased tropical activity, but in terms of specifics, we can't get into that. But the good news is we're in peak season and we're looking quiet, so no big tropical cyclones to deal with as of right now, and hopefully we can keep that trend going throughout March, as that is usually the peak month of the season, and after that things start to tick off as we get ready for the Northern Hemisphere hurricane season. That's all that I've got for today. I'll keep you all updated on any tropical cyclones that form, but at least for now, I won't have any videos out throughout the rest of the week and maybe for the next week as we end off February. But that's all that I've got. Like I said, stay safe in Western Australia as Lincoln comes through. That's it for now. Thanks for watching.